All right, we're about to take a journey, but not to some place you can find on a map. No, this is a landscape that exists inside. Well, inside every single one of us. Together, we're going to dive deep and explore the abstract, the philosophical, and yeah, the sometimes pretty unsettling world of the subconscious mind. So before we really dive in, I want you to just let this question sink in for a second. Because really, this whole journey is about learning to listen to those inner voices, right? Those echoes that are always there, just beyond the edge of our everyday thoughts. Okay, so think of this whole thing as a guided descent, like we're explorers. We're starting right here, on the surface, the conscious world where we feel like we're in control of our thoughts. But we're not staying here. We're heading down, way down, into the deeper, much more chaotic levels of pure feeling and intuition. And you know what? That's really the whole point of this. This isn't just about understanding the you that you think you know. Nope. It's about meeting the parts of ourselves that we've buried, the anxieties we push aside, the consequences we desperately try to forget. All right, as we start to go deeper, we meet our first two entities. You can think of them as these two fundamental forces that are just always humming in the background of our minds, that feeling of aimless anxiety and the heavy weight of our own past creations. So, first up, let's meet the skeleton. Now, this isn't the voice of a specific fear, like being afraid of spiders or something. No, this is the sound of that vague, aimless anxiety that just floats around in your subconscious. It kind of wanders through the mind, and the way it copes, it uses stories, these narratives, almost like existential cement, just to fill in all the empty, chaotic gaps in our existence. What the skeleton really embodies is this core feeling, existential ennui, which is a fancy way of saying a deep, nagging boredom with life itself. I mean, when you're faced with all of the chaos in the world, you'd think panic would be the logical response, right? But what this voice suggests is that something way more powerful takes over. This deep, tired dissatisfaction, a feeling of meaninglessness that can be absolutely more paralyzing than any quick scare. Okay, next we run into the golem. And this is different. This isn't some random anxiety. The golem is something you made. It's that unintended side effect, the consequence of you trying to fix some other problem. It's an echo of something you did, something you then tried to bury deep down, but it's still there. A constant reminder of a future that now feels kind of hopeless. So, let's put these two side by side for a second. You've got the skeleton, which is like the background noise of a chaotic universe. It's just natural. It's always going to be there. But the golem, oh, that's personal. That's a specific weight you carry from your past, a creation that's now haunting the underground of your mind. So you see the difference? One is just the state of being alive. The other is a direct consequence of your actions. But look, these first couple of anxieties, they're just the beginning. This is just the first level. As we go even deeper, the voices start to question something way more fundamental. They start picking apart the very idea that we have a stable, single self at all. And this is where we meet the scarecrow, a being whose whole sense of self is just completely fractured. It throws this radical challenge right at our most basic belief that the word I actually proves we exist. The scarecrow's logic is actually pretty simple and kind of chilling. It says, look, just because something exists doesn't mean it has a consciousness to say I. I mean, a stone exists, right? But does a stone say I? This tiny little distinction creates this huge, deep uncertainty. And it leaves the scarecrow totally, completely unsure of its own existence. It's just a bunch of thoughts, a string of moments. But does all that actually add up to a self? The scarecrow? Well, it has no idea. And this uncertainty, it actually leads to a pretty profound insight. The self, the I we're so sure about, it's not a solid thing. It's a constantly shifting illusion. And the reason for it? The big reason? Fear. We are always changing who we think we are in this hopeless attempt to escape reality. Our identity is basically just a defense mechanism. Okay, this brings us to the final, deepest layer of our journey. And down here, the voices aren't just challenging the self anymore. Oh no, now they're questioning the very nature of the reality we think we see. Down here, a voice they call the Hell Beast suggests something pretty wild. It says that what you see, what you hear, what you feel, it's not an accurate picture of the outside world at all. Your senses are more like filters, or maybe software, painting a picture that's based entirely on your internal state. And what does that mean? It means that thing you see as a monster, it might just be a reflection of what's going on inside your own head. And that leads us to our final guide, the alien, and really, the ultimate dilemma you find in the subconscious underground. It boils down to this one question. If reality is truly, genuinely unbearable, is choosing delusion the only sane thing to do? And you can see the appeal, right? It's a huge temptation. I mean, who wouldn't want to pick a comfortable fantasy over a harsh, painful truth? And this final voice, it's not judging you for it. It's just laying out the choice. Do you want to witness reality, even just for a split second, or do you want to stay in this beautiful, perfectly constructed lie? All right, so we've made it through. We've completed our descent. Let's head back up for a minute and try to piece together what we've actually discovered on this trip through the echoes of the mind. So what are the big takeaways from this whole journey? Well, first, we've got to acknowledge that background noise, that constant hum of anxiety. Then, from there, we're challenged to question the whole idea of a fixed self, and to maybe see it as an illusion built out of fear. Next, we saw how our own perception literally shapes the reality we experience. And finally, we're left with this massive choice, right? The choice between a hard truth and a comfortable lie. And I think this is the most important part to remember. The skeleton, the golem, the scarecrow, these voices aren't monsters you need to go out and defeat. They're more like landmarks. They're guides. They make up the complex and, yeah, sometimes scary map of your own mind. To understand them is really to understand yourself. And so here we are back on the surface. After listening to all these voices from the underground, the only real question left is a personal one, a question for you. Which one of these echoes sounds the most familiar?